All right, welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling something that, on the surface, might seem a little, well, niche.
Niche.
Maybe niche isn't the right word, but specific.
Okay, I'll bite. What's got you feeling so hesitant?
Well, we're diving into the story of Kippon. And if you're not familiar with Jewish religious wear, you might not immediately grasp the significance.
Kippon. I see where you're going with this. But trust me, even if you've never worn a kippah, or yarmulke, as it's also known, this deep dive is going to be fascinating.
I completely agree. Because ultimately it's a story about ingenuity and problem solving, and those are universal, right?
Absolutely. We humans are great at coming up with creative solutions to all sorts of challenges, big and small. And kippon is a prime example.
So for our listeners who maybe haven't encountered this before, a kippah is a small, often circular head covering worn by observant Jewish men.
Right. It's a symbol of reverence and connection to God. And traditionally, it's been held in place with, well, let's just say a variety of methods, some more effective than others.
Yeah, we're talking bobby pins, clips, even tape. And I'm sure anyone who's ever had to rely on those knows that they can be, well, less than ideal.
Exactly. Uncomfortable, unreliable, they can damage the fabric of the kippah. It's a problem that's been around for centuries. And for our deep dive today, we're going to be drawing primarily from the story of Kippon, which details the journey of this invention from, well, a surprisingly unexpected starting point.
Unexpected is an understatement. I mean, who would have thought that the solution to this age-old problem would come from, wait for it, a nuclear physicist?
That's right. But before we get to the science, we need to understand the spark that ignited this whole journey. And that takes us to Brooklyn, where an observant rabbi, Shalom Ber Shapiro, had a simple yet profound realization.
He's watching his students, and he noticed that sometimes they'd lose their bobby pins or whatever they were using to keep their kippahs in place. And they wouldn't wear the kippah at all, rather than go through the hassle of finding a new one or fixing it.
And this really struck him. Because for him, it wasn't just about a minor inconvenience. It was about a potential barrier to religious observance.
Right, exactly. And so, being a resourceful and, let's face it, brilliant man, Rabbi Shapiro decided to reach out to an expert. But not just any expert. He contacted Professor Herman Branover, a specialist in something called magnetohydrodynamics.
That sounds complicated.
It is. Essentially, it's the study of how magnetic fields interact with electrically conducting fluids. So, not exactly something you'd immediately associate with head coverings.
Not at all. But here's where the story takes another fascinating turn. Professor Branover, after hearing Rabbi Shapiro's dilemma, realized that he knew just the person for the job. And that person was Dr. Lev Nemotin.
And Dr. Nemotin, as we mentioned, was a nuclear physicist working at Brookhaven National Laboratory. So talk about an unexpected connection.
It's amazing, isn't it? You have this rabbi concerned about his students' kippahs, and he ends up connecting with a scientist who works on nuclear reactors.
It just goes to show that innovation can come from the most surprising places. And in Dr. Nemotin's case, he had this almost immediate insight. He realized that a simple mechanical solution would be far more effective than anything involving magnets or chemicals.
And that, my friend, is how Velcro entered the picture. It's genius in its simplicity, really. This existing technology perfectly suited for a new and rather unexpected application.
So Kippon-B was born. It was essentially small, hair-friendly strips of Velcro that you could attach inside a kippah.
And the beauty of it was in the details. They designed the Velcro with these tiny rounded heads that would grip the hair gently without pulling or snagging. So it was comfortable and secure.
And word got around quickly. I mean, we have articles from back then, publications like the Jewish Monthly, the Jerusalem Post, Moment Magazine, even the Jewish Times, all singing its praises.
It was clearly addressing a real need. And one of my favorite anecdotes comes from a review in the Jewish Monthly. They actually had a 5-year-old boy test kippon, both on a small knitted kippah and a larger one. And they had him, well, really put it through its paces.
They're talking hanging upside down on a jungle gym, swinging with all his might. And the smaller kippah, it eventually came loose, understandable with all that movement. But the larger one,
It stayed put. No slipping, no sliding, no drama. It's a wonderful image, isn't it? A 5-year-old proving the effectiveness of this simple invention through sheer exuberance.
Absolutely. And this real-world testing clearly resonated with people. I mean, sales took off. By 1987, they had sold over 35,000 units.
It wasn't just a novelty, it was becoming a staple. And you even had the New York Times featuring Kippon, describing it as this, simple kit with 4 strips of Velcro, easy to use, effective.
And Dr. Nemotin, he wasn't content with just solving this problem within the Jewish community. He saw the potential for Kippon to have a broader reach. And so, he started sending sample kits to leaders outside the Jewish faith, including, remarkably, Pope John Paul II.
And the Vatican responded. We actually have the letter here.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right, so it's dated November 29th, 1986. Secretariat of State, Vatican City, November 29th, 1986. Dear Mr. Nemotin, I am writing at the direction of His Holiness Pope John Paul II to acknowledge the gift that you sent for his acceptance. I have the honor to assure you of His Holiness's gratitude for your thoughtful gesture and his appreciation of the kind sentiments which prompted it. Sincerely yours, signed O. Rosado, Monsignor O. Rosado, Department Head.
Very formal, very appreciative.
And then there's the response from Cardinal O'Connor's office in New York, which takes a slightly different, shall we say, more lighthearted approach.
Let's hear that one too.
Cardinal's office, 1011 First Avenue, New York, NY 1022, September 23, 1986. Dear Lev, your gadget is the greatest. If His Eminence ever gets a toupee, I trust that it won't come off when removing his Catholic Yarmulke. His Eminence is most appreciative of your thoughtfulness. However, only a very few of the Catholic clergy, the bishops, use skullcaps, and in this instance, because of numbers, there would be no real value in trying to market your product in this area. Faithfully, James J. McCarthy, Reverend Engsiar James F. McCarthy, Secretary to the Cardinal.
Well, that's a bit more conversational,
to say the least. But it's also quite insightful. It acknowledges the ingenuity of the solution while also pointing out the specific context of the problem.
Right, the Catholic Yarmulke comment is a nice touch.
Yeah.
But as successful as KIPPON-B was, it did have one limitation.
You're right. The Velcro, it relied on having hair to grip. So if someone was bald or had a shaved head or even just very straight hair, it wouldn't work.
Which is why Dr. Nemotin continued to innovate, and this led to the creation of KIPPON-B.
And KIPPON-B was all about inclusivity. Instead of Velcro, it used these discrete rubber patches with tiny micro suction cups, so it could grip directly onto the skin, no hair required.
Really clever, and they made sure that these suction cups were breathable and skin-friendly, plus they were reusable. You can refresh the grip throughout the day just by pressing on them.
Exactly. And cleaning them was easy. Just a little mild soap and water, and they were good to go. KIPPON-B was a hit, expanding the reach of this invention even further.
So fast forward to today, and Kippon has sold over 250,000 kits. It's become a part of Jewish cultural history, featured in countless publications. And we even have a quote here from an early user who said, "Your product Kippon recently came to my attention, and I am thrilled with it. When I do weddings and bar mitzvahs, these are really quite in demand."
It's amazing how something that started as a relatively simple observation, this rabbi noticing his students struggling with their kippahs, led to this incredibly successful and enduring invention.
Absolutely. And the slogans they used back then, they really capture the essence of Kippon. No more bobby pins, no more clips, no more chasing kippah slips.
It's a story about identifying a common frustration and finding an elegant, practical solution. And the path from a rabbi in Brooklyn to a nuclear physicist on Long Island to the Vatican, it's a reminder that innovation can take the most unexpected turns.
And it's not just about inventing something entirely new. Sometimes it's about applying existing knowledge and technologies in creative ways. I mean, who would have thought that a nuclear physicist would be the one to solve this centuries-old problem?
It makes you wonder what other seemingly small frustrations we encounter every day might have surprisingly brilliant solutions just waiting to be discovered.
That's a great point. I mean, what if we all started looking at the little annoyances in our lives as opportunities for innovation? Who knows what we might come up with? And if you're curious to learn more about the Kippon story, you can visit their website. It's www.kippon.io.
It's a fascinating journey, and it's a reminder that even the smallest problems can inspire remarkable solutions.
All right, that's it for today's deep dive. We'll be back soon with another fascinating exploration. Until then, keep those brains buzzing and those eyes open for those little sparks of inspiration. Who knows, you might just stumble upon the next Kippon.
And maybe it'll be you, out there listening, who comes up with the next brilliant solution to a problem we've all been taking for granted.
So long, everyone. And thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Until next time.